Gemtocracy really wants to unite Europe. But now the question becomes, which cities in Europe are in which tier? Let's start with Aarhus. This is in Denmark. It's a pretty beautiful city. It's more north rather than south of Denmark. And it has nice architecture. And the government is pretty good there too. The living conditions are medium to great. The food is mediocre, I must say, though. So I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. Amsterdam. Now, I'm from the Netherlands, but Amsterdam is not the best city at all. And I guess it would even go below Aarhus. So it's a C tier for me. Let's go with Bern. Bern is one of the most beautiful cities in the entire world. And I think that if you want to see that, you just gotta go visit. It's very beautiful, and it's not expensive to go there, but they are very solitary, just like their country, so you have to be aware of that. But I would say it's definitely an A tier. The city of Bordeaux is in France. It's very southwest of France, and it is not that great for living. It's not that special with its architecture, but it has a great policy, and overall bad things don't happen there that often, but it has recently been a victim of a lot of arson in its surrounding areas, and combining that with the recent rise of sexual assaults, especially by people of color, I would have to say that's a D tier. Berlin. Berlin is one of the cleanest cities with the most history, a very good government, and pretty good living conditions too. That definitely gets the S tier. Vienna is one of the most artistically rich cities in the world, let alone in Europe even. So I think it definitely also deserves an S tier. The city of Prague is in the Czech Republic, what used to be Czechoslovakia. It now is Czechia and Slovakia. What you have to know about Prague is that it's a beautiful city, but its government isn't that great. Therefore, it belongs right next to Aarhus. Antwerp is one of the best cities in Europe. It is a Belgian city, but it also counts as its own entity. The reason why is for many reasons, but mostly because of the Brussels Pact that they had. Now, the views on Gemtocracy are that Belgium shouldn't exist, but Antwerp is still one of the best cities, and it definitely deserves the S tier. Rome is a very historically rich It's a historically rich city, and it does have a very good architecture, and there's a lot to see and good food, but its government isn't too great at the moment. So for that, combined with the crime rate, I'm gonna have to put it right up here with Bern. Now, the city of London is a pretty interesting city because it's been existing for quite a while, but its architecture isn't that impressive, and there's not really much to see, and it's pretty expensive to live there, and the food isn't that great either. Therefore, I'm sorry, but it has to go right next to Amsterdam. Moscow is the Russian city, the Russian capital. The Russian capital has changed a lot during history, also being St. Petersburg at once, but it changed its name as well. But Moscow has relatively stayed the same throughout history, from the Muscovich family all the way back to the Vassilovich dynasty, which was where Ivan the Terrible really became the Tsar, who was the historical figure that basically set the tone for what the strategy would be for Russia throughout the ages, and the Soviet Union, which is to conquer and rule with force. Part of it has beautiful culture, but there's also some darker parts to it. which makes me put it right next to Bordeaux. Nice, or Nice, however you want to pronounce it. Nice is the official way you're supposed to pronounce it. It's a city in France. It's in the north of France, very much north. But it has a lot of good architecture, it's good food, and overall there's a lot of trade and tourism going on there. But the only thing that makes it not as there is the fact that there's not that much history that is that interesting there. So we're gonna have to put it up at A. The next city is Toulouse. Toulouse, and it's in France, south of France. It's actually very close to Andorra, but it's also quite close to Bordeaux. The only difference is that it has a lot less crime and a lot more intricate architecture because of its location, which makes me say, okay, it deserves to be right here next to Prague and Aarhus. Now the city of Istanbul is in Turkey, and it's also been known as Constantinople, or the Golden Apple. Constantinople is the city that last fell to the Persian Empire during the conquests of the Persian Empire, before they spread into Europe and tried to take over Bulgaria. Now, the problem with Istanbul is that currently it's the capital almost, but not really, because that's Ankara. But the reason why it was almost the capital is because it had a lot of history and a lot of people lived there. It's a very big city, but it's all kind of overpopulated now, so they're trying to kind of separate themselves from it. It also acts as an important connection between the Black Sea, which is a sea like right by the Romanian, Russian and Turkish borders. And basically the point is that it's really important for that reason, but it's so overpopulated right now, which means that I think it deserves to be right here with London and Amsterdam. The city of Warsaw is a city that is pretty historical. It's in Poland, and it's been in many different hands throughout history. The Lithuanians owned it when they were a larger state. The Russians have owned it when they were a larger state. The Prussians have owned it, and so forth. Many empires and kingdoms and rulers and whatever have taken it over. So it has a lot of history, but its living conditions aren't that great, and they're kind of struggling to get everything not militarized, just get everything produced, like machines, I forgot what it's called. So I'm gonna have to put it in D tier for that specific reason. The city of Malmo is in Sweden. It's in the very south of Sweden. It's a city that has also been in the hands of Denmark and Norway, respectively, but the culture was kind of already the same, so it didn't really change much for its course. The only difference is that there are some relics now around there, and some architectural things have been influencing it, but it's not that big of a deal, so it kind of just exists, and therefore we're putting it right. Here's the city of Luxembourg, which is in the country of Luxembourg, which is almost like a city-state, but not really, because it's just bigger than a city-state. Because it's not just one city, but it is relatively small on the map. It's kind of what Bahrain would be, kind of. Therefore, we're putting it as something that's really small, but it's very advanced. They have okay food. So we're putting it right next to Rome, and Nice and Bern. The city of Paris is a city in France. Oh, that was stupid, I'm sorry. And it's pretty well known, but it's kind of underwhelming. It does have a lot of great art though, so I think it falls under the same category as Bern, Rome, Nice and Luxembourg. The city of Oxford is one that's very famous for the Oxford University, which is one of the most impressive intellectual bases of the world. And I think for that fact alone it deserves a higher place than most. But is it really beyond what you would expect a city to have besides that one fact? No, really. So we're gonna have to put it at B. Edinburgh, which is of course in Scotland, which is a very, very nice country to have. But I think it's very important to remember that Edinburgh has a lot of different histories as well. You wouldn't expect it, but it was actually in the hands of multiple rulers as well. From the Icelandics, to the Irish, to the English, to the Romans, who very briefly had it during the conflicts when the Roman Empire tried to spread it into Britannia. And also the Viking conquests that happened there. So therefore I think Edinburgh, combined with its beautiful architecture, I recommend checking out the Edinburgh Vaults, by the way. I do think it deserves a place that's higher, but not too high. The city of Minsk is in Belarus, and honestly it's one of the worst cities we've seen so far. It really is very bad. It's a very bad government, the architecture is kind of boring, the food is disgusting, and it deserves F tier. Vatican City. Now, regardless of your religious beliefs, I just think as a city-state all it does is just secure items for religion, which you know is cultural at the same time, but I'm not really that interested with that. And I don't think anyone should be that interested considering the fact that it just exists for that reason. It's kind of like Belgium as a country. You don't really want it to exist, but it has good parts in it. So therefore it deserves the same treatment as I've done to the other ones that have had a lack of meaning or that had things that just weren't that great. So it deserves to be right next to Bordeaux, Moscow and Warsaw. The city of Venice is very overrated. It's been told that it's like a beautiful city to be at for especially couples. But really, unless the weather's great and there happens to be not that much garbage in the water, you're not gonna have a good time unless that's the case. And honestly, most of the time there's just too much garbage everywhere, and it's honestly just disgusting. It smells really bad, and it's expensive. So we're putting it right around here. Yeah, it's definitely very overrated. So. Don't go to Venice. Athens is kind of similar in a way to Venice, where people are often disappointed by what they find, but the thing that makes up for it is the great food and the architecture and the friendliness that they have. So I'm gonna have to say that Athens is definitely C tier. The city of Madrid, which is in Spain, it's pretty beautiful, it has a lot of history, the food is great. It's just kind of expensive, so for that reason I'm putting it right next to Aarhus, Prague, Toulouse, Malmo and Oxford. St. Petersburg is a historical city that was once or twice even the capital of Russia, but because of its striking history it was changed from the capital into just a regular city, and the capital was moved to Moscow instead. But it has so much history, and it has okay food, and just everything around about it is pretty much great. It's much better than Moscow, so it deserves to be on the S tier. Andorra La Vela is within the city-state of Andorra, which is one of the most amazing places you can go. The food is absolutely beautiful. It's a combination of French and Spanish cuisine with their own unique twist to it, and their buildings are just majestic but calm at the same time, and the government is pretty nice there, and it's not expensive at all. I really recommend going to Andorra La Vela. The city of Tallinn, it's a city that's very much known for its solidarity within itself, because it is a coastal city, in Estonia, which is one of the LE states, which are Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. LE is the way you can remember those states. They're also called the Baltic states. And Tallinn is all the way at the top of Estonia. So it's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. And right across the water from there is Helsinki, which is the capital of Finland. So you have direct access there. This makes it one of the most promising cities in Europe, and it deserves the S tier for all its majestic architecture, relatively okay food, and just the fact of its location. Copenhagen is the city in the capital city of Denmark, and although the culture there is okay and the architecture is beautiful, the food is disappointing and the people don't seem that great, so it deserves to go in the C tier. The city of Lille is one of the best cities in all of Europe, and it deserves, for its architecture and history and its close proximity to the ocean, it deserves to be at the A tier. Alright everyone, this was my final decision on which European countries are in which tier. If you disagree with me, then you're wrong, so let me know why you disagree with me so that I can educate you, because I'm always right except for when I'm wrong, and I am always right because I'm never wrong unless I'm wrong when I'm right, but I'm always right, so then I would have to be wrong. But I'm only wrong whenever I'm wrong, if I'm not always right, but I'm always right. You know why? Because I'm always right except for when I'm wrong. Alright, goodbye.